Hey everyone, it is 6:30 a.m. on a Friday morning, and check out where I am. Pacific Ocean, one of my favorite places, paddling my bark board. A couple miles off to start my Friday, which is a very busy week, a very busy day after a very busy week. I'm seeing a new client today, so I'm super excited about that. And I decided today to start my morning by kind of going off of what happened last night at a speaking engagement that I was at. Ooh, there's a really cool little seal coming up over here. Power of being in nature, you get distracted by animals. I wanted to have a conversation about something that came up last night when I was at a speaking engagement with a bunch of young adults. We ended up having a very big conversation surrounding fear and why people are so afraid to dig deep into themselves. And I found it to be really interesting because I'm having this same conversation with a lot of people these days. I'm 44 years old and I've been working on myself pretty much all my life since I was 17 and had an extremely traumatic event happen to me. It's interesting because I'm really fascinated by how many people these days are afraid to actually talk about their stuff and to actually have conversations and dig deep into who they are. And I've always said there's one thing that I've always told people. You have to dig deep in order to come out the other side clean. You have to get dirty. You have to actually walk through the difficult times in your life and really assess them and learn from them. And what was interesting last night during this talk that I had post the speaking engagement with a couple of people was actually the power of fear. And we were talking about what holds us back from actually having these deep conversations about who you are and going deep into those things that scare us most and looking back at and taking responsibility for all of the things that happened in our life. And one of the things that was interesting was actually the fact that fear seems to be what holds everybody back. Fear about, getting happy? It's really fascinating to me. Fear about actually having to look in the mirror and say, wow, that happened to me, and I need to actually talk about that. Fear about, judgment from others, or is it judgment from yourself? I don't know. This is a conversation that I really think needs to start getting had with a lot of people. And you know what? Actually, come to think of it, I may have to have a workshop on this because I literally find it to be so fascinating why people are having a hard time looking at themselves and their life and actually saying, yeah, this happened. And you know what? It's okay. And if somebody wants to judge me on it, oh well. But what I'm not going to do is self-judge. I'm not going to sit there and say to myself, geez, man, shouldn't have done that. Geez, man, should have handled that differently. Because you know what? In those moments, that's when we learn about ourselves. That's when we actually say, you know what? I take responsibility for being there and I take responsibility for this happening, because when you take responsibility for it, you also learn from it. That's the bottom line. It's really fascinating. When I had a conversation with a friend of mine, we were running one time up in Catalina Island, actually. We were on this is going to sound crazy. We were on a ultra marathon run. So we were running a 50-mile run. And about partway through, she looked at me and she said, well, you didn't have anything to do with your marriage failing. I mean, that was all on him. Yeah, he totally screwed up and betrayed me for a long time. But I looked at her and I said, actually, you know what? I do hold myself responsible for a few things. And one of the things that I completely hold myself responsible for is not seeing the signs along the way. And when I did see the signs, I listened to him and not my inner self. I didn't listen to that little piece within me that said, Sarah, something's off. And, it's interesting. My father actually said to me, post everything when I finally talked to my parents about everything, about my marriage failing and what was going on in my life. And my dad actually said to me, I do hope that you're taking responsibility for what part you played in this. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, I could really get angry at that comment, or I could completely look deep and really analyze what he was saying to me. And you know what? He was right. He was absolutely right. He had something there. You know, I should have flipped it back and said, Dad, do you take responsibility for everything that happened in your life? Oh. But I wouldn't do that. Respect. But anyhow, and I'm sure he does, but love you, Dad. But it's really interesting because I, in that moment, had this whole thought of like, you know what, he's right. And I do take responsibility. I do actually say to myself, like, Sarah, you know what? Make sure that you're learning from these moments. Take responsibility and learn from what happened. And so I do. I've thought about all of those things, and I've thought about where did I go wrong? And how can I do better as a human being? Not only in relationships with personal, like, you know, intimate relationships, but with my children and with my clients and with my community and with my family and with my best friends and with just my acquaintances or those people that I meet. How can I do better as a human being? So here's the thing. Fear can completely hold you back from your happiness. Fear of not looking deep within yourself and taking those moments to learn about what your values are, who you are as a human being, why those things happen to you. Fear about, I don't know, actually taking responsibility. Fear about realizing I could hold better boundaries. Fear about relationships and what you no longer want to hold on to. Because guess what? Your tribe changes as you change. And that's a good thing. Truly, it is. Take it from me. And what are all those other fears around that? And is it fear truly about being judged by other people? And then on the flip side of that, do you really care? Because if you're being you, and if you're standing in your integrity, and if you're living a life of which you want to live, does it really care? Do you really care? Does it really matter? I don't think so. I've gone through enough stuff to know happiness comes from within. And that happiness happens, ooh, did you feel the breeze just came up? There's something there. Happiness comes from within. And in order to truly get happy, you have to dig deep and get dirty to come clean on the other side. That is my 6:30 a.m. Friday morning mantra for today. Have a great day, you guys. Enjoy. It's a beautiful day, even with all these clouds. I came out here hoping for a sunrise, and there is no sun. But guess what? Behind every cloud, there is a sun. So, have a great morning.